Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Ryan with Propelio. Today we've got another episode of Grant, Teach Me Something. Yeah.
Yes.
Today is going to be a fun episode. It's going to be heavily reliant on your participation. Everything here at Propelio that we've done here in the studio is always about, hey, hashtag join the conversation. Mm-hmm. This is very much one of those episodes. What we're going to do is really hone in on your deals, kind of analyze what you have kicking. Maybe it's something that you have kicking right now. Maybe it's something you had a year ago and you think you messed up, and maybe you walked away. Maybe you should have walked away. Whatever. The point of this is we need you to jump in the comment section, give out the basic details. If you want to hop on a phone call, say, hey, call me, or drop in your phone number and we'll give you a call.
Yeah.
So did I...
That's great.
Give a quick...
No, that's perfect. Yeah, exactly. So we're piggybacking off of what we did last week. Because last week we talked a little bit about, what it was like to analyze these deals and a couple of rules of thumbs. And then thumbs.
Okay.
We got 2 thumbs. Got a rule for each one. But a couple of things just to point out is not every deal is some groundbreaking, creative, we've got to be crazy about this because it's got this thing going on and that thing going on. Sometimes it's just straight up, hey, I can get this deal at 75 cents. Let's move, something like that. And so just like Ryan said, we want to work with you guys. So if you have deals that are on your table, let's analyze them. I've already got a couple of people lined up that we're going to reach out to over the phone just so that you can see kind of what that analysis process looks like.
On the phone?
I know, it's fancy.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is I'm going to call them, I'll put them up against the mic so that you can hear what we're talking about. We're just going to run this. Now, these are a couple of the ones that I've got here are a little bit of, we're going to have some creativity mixed into it. We also got a comment from Sean Burke that we're going to run into. That is just something that we'll be able to whiteboard here.
So, real quick, as always, Lee, love our disclosures. Neither one of us are realtors, neither one of us are attorneys, and neither one of us are financial planner, consultant persons.
Right, yes.
This is for entertainment purposes only.
It sure is. Hello, Lacey. So, Lacey Allen Janka, I think I'm saying it right, was one of our wonderful contenders for this morning. So she was ready to go. But what we're going to do is I'm going to reach out to a couple of people here. Now, the first person that we're going to reach out to, his name is Chris. And so I put a post out this morning on a couple of the Facebook groups. And let me just kind of derail for a second here and just say it's a really good idea to get out there and join these Facebook investment groups around the area. I resisted it for a very long time because to me, my Facebook was a place where I went with my friends and I didn't want to talk to any of you on it. But I have opened up and now I'm seeing it's really, it's cool. There's a huge community of other investors out there that are really, doing their best to help each other out. And just like we want you to join the conversation here, you can join the conversation there. And I posted up asking people if they had deals they wanted to run. And that's kind of where we came to this. So I'm just going to dive right in if that's cool with you guys. And I'm going to call, and part of doing a live episode is, they may not pick up, but we will see.
Where do you want me? Taking notes?
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to end up whiteboarding all of this stuff.
Woohoo!
So I'm calling Chris. Hello? Chris, this is Grant Kemp. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, Grant?
I'm doing well, man. Hey, are you watching the live episode? Because you're on it.
Yeah.
You're on it now.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Okay, so hopefully you guys can hear. I'm not getting very much volume out of this, out of my speaker here. Usually it's
Samsung?
No, it's a Google Pixel 2 XL. Is what it is. Usually it's pretty loud here. Okay, anyway, so we wanted to, kind of like I told you earlier, we wanted to run a deal live just to show everybody kind of how this stuff works, right? And so that's what we're going to work on now. We're going to run this deal. We're going to kind of get some numbers in front of us and see if we can help some people understand what it takes to analyze a deal. That cool with you, Chris?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, excellent. So, tell me a little bit about this. What's the overall, what's the deal look like overall, and then we'll just start kind of hammering out on some of the questions that we need answered.
Yep. So this deal was listed as a pre-foreclosure. That's not an accurate description, but it's listed with a realtor, and it's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,600 square foot, and they were asking $148. the ARV on this place, we ran a formal CMA through one of our agents in the area. It came out to 195.
Cool.
And then the rehab is about 80K.
Okay, awesome. Now, did you get those rehab numbers yourself, or are you using a contract or like a subcontractor? How are you getting those rehab numbers?
So I walked through the property and I ballparked it. I tend to be pretty conservative. I don't try to be close and, rather miss a few deals rather than cut a few deals close.
Yeah, no, it's good. You always want to run conservative numbers, and that's one of the key points actually to analyzing these deals correctly. Is you always want to be conservative. We don't want to get aggressive with our numbers, because if you get aggressive and something gets messed up, then you're screwed, right? But if you're smart like Chris and you're conservative with your numbers, worst case scenario, you make your money, and then if anything goes right, you make even more money. So obviously that's the one that we want to go with. Now, you said it's incorrectly listed as a pre-foreclosure. What makes you say that?
So it was on foreclosure.com and listed as and normally those ones are the REOs. There's something about to go to auction, and this one they posted up as a rehab, and so we kind of caught it before it hit the market. It's on the MLS now. It's on Zillow now. But we got in there a little bit early. We talked to the broker, but then decided to go around him and just showed up at the seller's house and then got into a conversation directly with him. So we started to understand the situation.
Okay, I got you. And what area are you in, Chris?
I'm in Clovis, New Mexico. It's a pretty small town supported by a military base.
Oh, cool. Clovis, New Mexico. So for anybody listening, Chris is in Clovis, New Mexico. Anybody watching here? Chris, if there's somebody else in Clovis, New Mexico that might be able to help you, or you might be able to help them, is there some way that you would like them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, they can look me up on a lot of different Facebook groups. I'm listed as Chris MN, or they can email me at chris@okaloosahomebuyer.com.
That's Chris MN, like Chris Mann. He's a man, but it's no A. Okay, so we've got an ARV of 195, so let's jump into this, right? So if we've got an ARV of 195, Chris, what is your risk factor here? So everybody kind of has a different number. Like some people are willing to buy at 75 cents of ARV. Some people are willing to buy at 85% of ARV. Do you have a number that you try to hit?
I aim for 70 cents.
Okay, awesome. Now, are you still getting those 70-cent deals down or over there in Clovis?
Yeah, I don't do a high volume of deals, but that's how we run our numbers. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, so 70% really is where we should all be. 70% is what we want to all shoot for, because 70% is that protected number. 70% is that most conservative, and where we were for many years until, here in Dallas, we've become very competitive and people's numbers have started going up and going up and going up. So here's what we've got. We've got an ARV of 195. So, Chris, are you still there? I'm switching off to my calculator. Can you still hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. So we got 195. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do 195 times 0.7, and that gets me to a number of 136. Because what that means is that if we have an ARV of 195, after it's fixed up, it's that 195 number, our total basis, our rehab and our acquisition both need to add up to be 70% of that number. In this case, that's going to be 136, okay? Now, that 136 number is obviously lower than the asking price that this person had on their property, right? So have you spoken to, okay, well, and let me further back that down. So if our total basis for a 70% deal is going to be 136, and that's got to include acquisition and it's got to include the rehab, we're going to do 136 minus our rehab number, which is $80,000, which leaves us down to only $56,000 that we have left over to offer our seller in cash. So Chris, have you had conversations with this seller about your pricing, and is this the offer that you were coming to them with?
Yeah, we told them a range when we first met with them, and we gave them a $60,000 to $80,000 range.
$60,000 to $80,000 was what you said that you would buy it from them for, right?
That's right.
Okay, gotcha.
That's before we ran numbers.
And what was their reaction?
Well, they didn't like it because but they didn't kick us out of the house. We tried to build some rapport with them and talk to them. They're the children of the previous owner who's in a nursing home. They all live about 2 hours away, and she is trying to qualify for Medicare, and so they have to pay the medical bill until they sell this asset, because otherwise Medicare says, you've got too much money and we won't support you.
Right, right. And so, if I understand right, you said that they had some concerns about how Medicare was going to handle that sale, right?
That's right, and I am not an expert on it. It's something I've been very aggressively researching since we talked to them. But my understanding is there's a floating lien on the home from these folks, and until they qualify for this amount, qualify for Medicare, that is to get rid of all of their assets, Medicare, they're going to have to pay out of pocket. So Medicare values the home, I think off the tax assessor's website, at $132. It's a little lower than they're asking at $148, but definitely not where we could pay. Mm-hmm. And anything that it ends up selling below that, Medicare is going to come and say, hey, you sold this home below value, we're not going to, they're going to qualify that as either a gift or an expense, and they're going to make them come out of pocket for it.
That's very interesting. Yeah, so I would definitely approach trying to find an attorney to kind of help you out with that situation as well. Because, and if anybody here watching has had any experience with Medicare on something like this, I'd love to have you join in on the chat function here and just let us know if you've run into something that has something to do with your Medicare and you maybe have experience on this. Let us know, because again, this is all join the conversation. We're here to help each other out. Like we're taking every Wednesday here. We do a free Teach Me Something episode here for everybody else. Let's get you involved too. If you've got some experience on something that might help here, let's get you involved on that to help Chris out in this situation, because that's an interesting one that I've never run into. I've never run into Medicare saying, hey, you have to sell it for, having basically what you called it, a floating lien on this property. That's a little bit different. So here's the thing, though, is that a property's only worth what somebody's willing to pay for it, right? How long has this property been on the market at their asking price of $148?
It's only about a week.
It's only about a week on the market? Yeah. So I'm curious, if you've got a rehab number of $80,000, that doesn't even add up with the ARV of $195 minus that rehab would still be under the asking price of $148. If you were to buy at $148 and put the 80% or $80,000 into it, am I understanding right that you would be at 167% of its,
which is more than double your target,
right? Of its value. So my thought process is going to be, if I was approaching this with the seller, would be very much just pointing out to them, A, you need to have reasoning behind that $80,000 number. You need to really have a reason behind why you're saying that the rehab is going to cost $80,000. And that might even come down to if you have, are you a wholesaler or are you planning, what's your exit here? Are you planning to take it down yourself or what?
We're going to wholesale this.
Okay, so do you have a contractor that you trust or somebody that might be able to give you some numbers on this?
Yeah. And actually, so when we walked through the property, we gave them a ballpark of 60 to 70K in the rehab, and they agreed with us there.
Okay. And real question, we've got somebody asking, is this a Medicare or a Medicaid? Are you positive on which one that is?
I'm not positive. It's whichever one deals with elderly.
I think they both do, don't they? I'm not sure. Possibly. And I don't see that comment, so you might have to fill me in because it's not showing.
It's just strictly Medicare and Medicaid. That's all it says.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So if you've got numbers that back up this $80,000, and what I'm saying here is that if you've got to defend this number up against a governmental agency like Medicare or Medicaid or something like that, basically I would start approaching this somewhat like a short sale. Somewhat like you've got to actually show some proof that says, hey, this is what the house is worth if it's fixed up. This is how much money needs to go into it to fix that property up. And for it to sell on the open market, we need to buy it at this dollar amount.
Quick caveat or wrench, he mentioned him as a realtor. So if the realtor has this listing, how does that work with going to a short sale expert?
Right.
So do they have to work together, or is the short sale expert going, hey, look, bub, I understand, realtor person, you have the listing, but you're never going to sell this. Is there like a referral fee, is a marketing fee, or they get part of the listing?
Yeah, and I'd be interested for you to know too, Chris, did they sign an exclusive agreement with that seller or with that listing agent?
Yes, they've got one with them.
Okay, so you run your business your way, and forgive me for going on a rant here. My personal look on if I find a property through anything that a realtor did at all, I make sure that realtor gets paid. And for those of you watching, I would suggest that be how you approach things as well, because if you find it from it being put on MLS, the realtor did work to get it there, right? Now, if you find it because you're searching through public records and the realtor did absolutely nothing to get this sold and you send them a piece of mail and that person calls you, that's when I don't have any qualms with going around the realtor. But just for the record, I would, if I was teaching one of my students to do this, I would be saying we've got to figure out a way for that realtor to get paid. But again, we're going to approach this somewhat like a short sale, and I would say you really need to get a contractor out there to get an actual bid on the rehab so that you can have a real third-party showing of what that rehab is going to cost. And then, like you said, because you said you got a CMA done from a realtor, and they said ARV would be $195, right?
That's right.
So I think that you've just got to show the proof to it and then put that in front of Medicare and Medicaid and just say, look, this is what it's actually worth. I know that y'all put a lien for X, but it's just not worth that. The other thing that you might be able to run with them, and we will get a little bit creative on this, but something to consider is, okay, I can only buy it for $56,000 cash to the seller, right? That's what Chris can pay to be within his numbers, which leaves you in a deficit of, what did you say the Medicare thing was, 132, right?
That's correct.
That leaves a $76,000 deficit. Again, it all hinges on these rehab numbers here. But is there a way for you to work some kind of second lien to the seller for that 76 to where you can take it down and give them cash of $56,000? At the closing table, maybe you give them a second lien of the $76,000 that it's like, if we can't get Medicaid to come down on their lien, if it has to stick at that 132, can you give the seller a second lien for that amount of money so that if you turn around and you fix it up and you put it on the market, does it make enough sense for you to sell it in that way, pay off the second lien to get to that 132 number and give you any money in between? Now, obviously, if the rehab really is 80, that doesn't make sense. But if it does come in lower and you do think that you could get that second lien done in there, this is a way to take the deal down.
I'm not an expert, but Mitzi Diane from San Antonio, again, disclaimer, I've never done this, this is what she said, face value, and it may not even be a topic of what we're talking about, is if there is a Medicare, Medicaid, whatever, even if you owe them $1 million, if you sell the house for $1, they get $1.
Okay.
So just because they owe, again, this is I have zero experience, just what I hear on the show here. Even if they're owed 132, if you sell it for $1, they get $1, and there's no like crazy deficiency.
And that would actually line up because IRS liens are similar in that way. Like if you've got a lien on a property for IRS and it's a non-homesteaded property, and you sell it and you don't have any profit from it, then you don't have to give the IRS the rest of the money. They will detach that lien. So I would say, knowing my experience with the IRS, that you can detach those liens if they're not making a profit. And hearing that that's what Mitzi's saying, that would probably be something for you to look into on that side.
Yeah, definitely do some research and due diligence.
Yeah, talk to an attorney on that side of things. But there's a couple of ideas.
Say again over?
Call Medicare.
Call Medicare directly on that. So, just for those of you who are watching, right, if we're analyzing this deal and we want a cash deal and we're trying to buy at 70 cents, what it boils down to is we've got to buy it at $56,000. This, at face value, if you were to just pick up a piece of paper with this deal on it, doesn't look like a deal, right? Because you can't buy it at 56 if they want 148 and they're not willing to come down. But if you can get that Medicare thing dropped off, like we talked about similarly to the IRS, to talking to Medicare, and proving to them that your rehab numbers are what they are, that the ARV is what it is, you should be able to get that to drop off through talking to an attorney around town, and then maybe you can pick up this deal that other investors have passed up on because they just saw the face value and they threw it away.
And then on that note, maybe there's a marketing fee that you can pay them that's not, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not telling you to do anything shady, but there's something to look into there.
Well, Chris, I'm interested to know how this turns out. Can you keep us up to date? You know, I'd like to keep in contact with you and kind of see where you end up with this. If you've got plans to talk to an attorney or anything like that, and then specifically seeing with Mitzi's suggestion, are you able to get that lien dropped off when the sale price is under what the lien amount is for? That would probably be something I would start looking into.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll keep you guys informed. We were going to approach it like the short sale package, put together a cover letter. with a formal estimate. I just don't know how these federal programs work.
Right.
I also want to agree with you on not cutting out the realtor. We went around him to talk to the seller, but we are not planning on cutting him out.
I see.
So he's got a contractually binding agreement. I don't want to get involved in any sort of litigation.
Gotcha. Well, of course you have to say that because you're live on TV now. I'm messing with you. No, yeah, that makes sense. You just wanted to talk to the seller, but you're still going to clue him in. That's okay. Cool. Well, man, thanks for being willing to take the call and letting us run these numbers on this and just kind of put something in front of people. I know for a lot of newer investors that are watching a show like this, it's really helpful for them because they don't know, they've never seen what happens when an actual real deal with actual real problems sits in front of them, right? So having somebody like you who's willing to put that out there, really appreciate that. That's going to help people going and keep me up to date with how this ends up because I'd like to know and I'll update people on the show from that, okay?
All right, thanks a lot, Grant.
Hey, man, thank you.
Do you want to use my phone?
We'll talk to you soon.
That way
Bye.
you can use your calculator?
Oh, I can use the calculator,
Well,
fine.
never mind.
Unless your speaker is really loud. I don't know why my speaker was being so quiet there. It's usually really loud. All right, so
Hopefully that was helpful.
hopefully that was helpful. I've got another one that we're going to call. Those of you who are watching this probably know Corey Thompson, but he commented on one of my posts asking about if somebody wanted to run deals. And he's got one that I think is going to be really valuable for you guys to see how something might work. That's a pretty actually common thing to run into on these types of deals. So what we just saw with that last one was really cool because that's kind of your basic how things are going to work on a basic cash deal. And of course, way to go, Corey. Corey, pick up your phone. Yeah, so we'll go to Sean after this. But on that guy, it's cool seeing real problems that pop up, right? So Sean, do we have Sean's phone number? Here, you want to call that or give it to me, and I'll or put.
210.
Hold on, we'll not say it to everybody there.
803.
Oh, I see it. Okay. Okay.
You did 9, not 3.
Gosh darn it. Thank you. 803, and then okay. All right, Sean, if you're watching, we're going to give you a call. I see that we've got the comment here with some details, and if anything, we'll just read through these details, but hopefully he's available here. Sean's down in San Antonio, I believe. Hello, Sean, you there?
Yes.
Hey, man, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. You watching the Grant Teach Me Something live right now?
Yeah.
All right, well, you're on it. We're on we're on a small delay, so you may not be on it yet, but you're here now. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you sent us a deal, or you sent Propelio a deal a little bit earlier to kind of go over, and I'd like to run those numbers with you right now, if that's cool with you.
That sounds good.
All right, perfect. So tell me a little bit. Just give me an intro to what this deal looks like for you.
All right. So it was built around 1978. Went there as a probate lead, and a guy's sister had passed away. They're an older fellow, and she has kids, but he's the executor, and he basically is going to be the one who, gets whatever coming from the house. I don't know what the issue is with the kids and the mom, but so as the numbers really are, I got the ARVs is somewhere around 170 to 180. It all depends. It could be even higher, but some of the other ones had like a pool and things like that.
So when you say 170 to 180, just so that the people watching understand, what is it that's causing you to give that range?
Because a lot of the houses are about 2,000 something square feet compared to the house that I'm looking at is 1,700 square feet.
Okay.
So I come down a little bit on an ARV per price per square foot.
Okay, gotcha. So one way, just for you guys that are watching on comping videos, so the problem that he's running into is if I understand right, Sean, you're saying that most properties that you're looking at are all in that 2,000 square foot home size, and yours is a little bit smaller. Is that what the problem is that we're hitting?
Yeah, and I haven't seen any that have been updated to get that ARV. A lot of as-is are around 140, 145.
Gotcha.
But,
so in your comps that you're running, you didn't run into anything that was fully updated and everything was bigger than your house. Is that what I'm hearing?
I did, but only on a higher square foot.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Well, so typically for those watching who may not have been big into comp running yet, and Daniel's got an awesome software out there, CreativeCashFlow.com obviously is where you can go to get these comps to actually get MLS information, but you've got to look at within like 10% of your square footage up or down. So his house is 1,700 square feet, and to go 10% above that, we're really only at 1,900, and he's saying all the rest of his houses are at 2,000 square feet. So it does make it a little bit of a challenge to get your ARV here. And then the second thing is that on these houses that were his size, they're not fully fixed up. And so he's getting 140s on the sales on those, but they're as-is houses. So he doesn't really have good comps to go back. Now, part of a good deal analysis is you cannot I'm going to say this, but I don't really mean it. You cannot overthink your ARV. You cannot spend too much time making sure that you get that number right before you buy it, because that is what everything hinges on. And if you get those numbers wrong through using something because you're silly and you're going to Trulia and just looking at their number rather than going to Propelio and actually getting comps, then you're setting yourself up for failure. But for now, we're gonna assume that Sean, which he has done all the work. And basically, when you say 170 to 180, is that saying, hey, if I put carpet in and laminate and Formica, I'm gonna get 170. But if I decide to put in some granite and some hardwoods, I'm gonna get 180. Is that kind of where your range is coming from?
I'm gonna say the granite and the carpeting and updating the cabinets and the vanities in the bathroom and the flooring.
Okay. So, but I guess what I'm getting at is what's going to make you say that you're going to get 170 on a rehab versus getting 180 on a rehab? That would be the question that I would have in my mind. So are you saying if I put granite in and hardwoods, I can get 180, but if I do carpet and Formica, I'm going to get 170. Is it something along those lines, or are you just kind of shotgunning and saying, well, I think I'm going to get anywhere from 170 to 180 regardless of what I do?
Well, the CRM that I got back, I got a 175, so I kind of basically said 170, 180 on different pricings that I saw on the houses available.
Okay, so what amount of rehab would you be putting in to get that number? I'm
going to say 25 grand.
Okay, so you're going to put in $25,000 to get that.
Yes.
Okay, so what do we have an asking price from our seller? Have you talked to the seller? Oh, you said you have. What does the seller say that they want? Have they told you that?
They won't budge off telling me anything. They want to hear my number first, and they also, of course I got other competition, so they're going to want to hear others' numbers.
Yeah. So here's one of the cool things that I've got for you negotiating-wise, and this is something that I use all the time, and I'm going to give you guys this trick right now, which has really helped me convert appointments and really helped me get to a point where I'm getting in front of those people and they're trusting me on my numbers. So here's the thing. I buy my houses at like 75%. That's my max when I'm buying houses, 75% of ARV. Therefore, what I mean is if the ARV is $100,000, I will spend up to $75,000 on the rehab and the acquisition, right? So if somebody's selling their house on MLS, Joe Schmo, Ryan, if Joe Schmo is selling their house on the MLS, how much are they spending in fees to sell that house?
Probably 6 to 8%, 6% realtor, and another 2% for title fees, and maybe seller, not deficiency, seller negotiations.
Yeah, seller. I knew it until
the
you
giveaways,
said it.
concessions. Thank you, Daniel.
Seller concessions.
Seller concession.
Yeah.
So I would say about 8%.
Right. So
at least
you're typically looking anywhere between 8 and 12% in fees that and just costs, of having to pay for an extra this or pay for an extra that or closing costs or whatever that might be. So what I usually do is I round that to about 10%. Okay. So if a seller, Joe Schmo, is selling their house on the MLS market, they're going to walk away with 90% of what they sold it for, right? Mm-hmm. Well, if I'm spending 75% on the deal, what does that mean for the seller? The seller's walking away with 15% less than they would have selling at MLS, right? So when a seller's really putting the squeeze on me on the phone and they really want me to give them an offer, I refuse to give them a number. I don't give them a range. What I give them is I say, hey, if you sell it to me, because I can also, by the way, go up to like 80 or 82 if I choose to wholesale this, right? So what I'm going to tell them is I'm going to say, look, I can't give you a number because I haven't seen the house, and I don't know what the rehab looks like, and I don't know all the numbers. Like, for me to give you an accurate number, I need to see everything. Anybody who's going to give you a number over the phone is just blowing smoke up your ear because they want to get in front of you. But what I can tell you is that by selling to me, you're going to accept 10 to 15% less than if you were going to be the person that put all the money into fixing this property up, spent the time to rehab it, found a contractor that you trust, got it fixed up, found a realtor that you trust, listed it on the MLS market, waited for all the showings, kept the house clean and ready for everybody to do their showings, all those open houses, found a person to buy it, went under contract for that person, and then waited 45 days for that person's bank to be able to finance them and then close, and you're hoping that that bank actually goes through with it and does finance it and close it. And if they don't, you've got to go through that whole process again and finding another buyer. By selling it to me, you're going to accept 10 to 15% less than if you went through all that trouble.
And on top of that, if you're an investor and your investor rehab is 25, they are probably spending 35 to 45, depending on, hopefully, that if you're an investor, you're getting good deals.
Right.
Because you're never going to spend that $30,000 on a foundation.
Right.
You're going to spend that for. Or whatever.
Right, exactly. And that's another good point that you can draw that out. So I just told you my spiel, but if we do need to draw that out, I will very much point that same exact thing out. And I'm going to say, and that's with my numbers. That's with the guy who does a ton of deals and gets bulk discounts from all of the contractors and has contractors that I can trust to get it done like that. Do you have a contract? Well, I can do it myself. Okay, well, we know how that goes, right? So that is a way to give them a price without giving them a price. And that's really helped my conversion rate go up. So if he's squeezing you for a number, I would recommend giving him that spiel, and just saying, look, it sounds a lot better to say they're walking away with 10 to 15% less than I need to buy at a deep discount. Too many people on the phone, they're like, well, if I'm paying cash, I got to buy at a deep discount for it to make room and blah, 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 blah.
So you're saying 10 to 15% less than what?
Then if they were to, so like the seller is going to accept 10 to 15% less than if they were going to put the money up for the rehab, find the contractor, do the rehab, that whole thing that I just talked about. You explain to them what a hassle it's going to be for them to be the person who puts this up and fixes it up and puts it on MLS when they would only walk away with 90% at that point in time. Well, we're giving them 75%. And so they're 75 to 80, right? So they're making 10 to 15% less than if they actually went through all of that hassle. And now all of a sudden, my discounted price doesn't sound too bad to them because, well, it's only 10 to 15%, and that's a lot of crap that I don't want to have to deal with.
Or you could offer $1.
Yeah. What are you going to give me for? I'll give you $1.50. True fitty. Hey, and Chris, if you're still watching, Tyler Waldrop has put a comment on here for some information about the Texas Medicaid Estate Recovery Program. So that's very cool. Thank you, Tyler, for looking that up and throwing that out there.
Although he's in New Mexico.
Well, but Medicaid should be... Oh, this is the Texas website, yeah. Well, but that one is Medicaid.gov. Anyway, Okay, so cool. So let's get back to this deal. So we don't know what the ask is because this guy keeps putting the squeeze on you. Again, I would turn that around on them and say, look, anybody who's going to give you a number without actually having everything in front of them is inexperienced. I'm the real deal, and that means I'm not going to give you a real number. But what it does mean is you're going to walk away with 10 to 15% less, just like what I told you. So let's run our conservative numbers. One of the things I said with Chris earlier is that we want to always run on the low end because our worst case scenario should be that we're making money. And then if anything goes right, we make more money. So what we're going to use is we're going to use this 170 as our ARV. Okay? And Sean, what is your buy criteria? I say I buy at 75 cents. What do you buy at?
Well, I like to do 70%.
You like to do 70%. Okay, what's your max?
I'd say 75.
Okay, cool. So if we're going to create our offer, we'll run it at our conservative one and see if we can get it that way. So 170 times 70% is going to be 119. That's what we are going to have as our total basis. Okay? 119 is our total basis. Now, we said that we've got a $25,000 rehab, right? So that means that our maximum allowable offer would be $94,000 to the seller. Right. 94 grand. Now, if we ran it on the 75 cent mark, that's going to change to 102. So our offer range is going to be anywhere from 94 to 102. That's going to be where our cash offer range is to them. Now, you can give them that range. Psychologically, there is a benefit to doing ranges, but really only when you're going to list when the low end of the range. Let me put it this way. Studies have shown that if you're interviewing for a job and they say, what do you want to make for this? And you want to make $50,000 If you say, I want to make $50,000 to $75,000, the employer is going to give you 50, and they're going to feel like they got a deal. Right. That's when ranges help. Ranges do not help when you want to buy it at the low one, and you give them a range of your low and your high, because they're going to hear the high and they're going to forget that low number that you ever said. So one of my negotiating tips for when you're approaching this is to only give one offer at a time. When you're actually getting to that point that you're going to give them that cash offer, you only give them one number, and you hammer that number, and you try to get that number until they say no. And when they say no, that's okay. No is good. No is very empowering. People like to be able to say no, and a lot of times I encourage them to say no through some other trickery just so that they get no out of the way. But once they've said no, then we're going to say, okay, well, that obviously didn't work for you. What does work for you? And now that you've spoken first, they will give you a number. They will give you an ask. And then you can see if you can fit that inside of your range. If that's under 102, awesome. If that's above 102, what you're going to do is you're going to say, okay, hold on, give me a second, let me run some numbers, and you're going to spend the next 3 to 4 minutes in silence looking at your piece of paper, writing numbers, and making faces like this. And then writing and going... And then you're going to give them this number, and you're going to say, look, this is the best I can do. 102 is the best I can do, and this is why, right? And now's when you start giving them your proof. Now, I always walk into every appointment with my laptop with me because I never lie about my ARV. I always tell my seller what my ARV is going to be, and this is one of the reasons why they choose to sell with me versus somebody else is because I don't BS them. I don't go in there and be like, well, this house is crap. It's only worth $150 when I fix it up. Because they may have already had a realtor tell them that it's worth $175. So whenever I come in and I give them my 102 number and they're like, man, that's so low, I had a house up the street sell for $190, I can pull out my computer and I can show them exactly why I'm pulling $175. And I'm going to walk them through the entire process of what it takes to get that ARV, right?
Another random tip, because one thing you always got to consider is you got to be holistic with everything. Is at the very beginning he did say there was a probate and there is heirs,
right,
and there is an executor. But if there's 4 heirs, or there's 5 heirs, people psychologically want that 20. They want that 25. So if there's 4 heirs, you don't even have to do the 102. Do the 100. Mm-hmm. But conversely, if you're offering 98 and there's 5 heirs and everyone's going to get 23,750 or whatever, they're going to be like, okay, come on, just round it up to 25, right, or round it up to 20. Or you can even round down to 25 or round down to 20.
Yeah.
So that's just something to think about in terms of, if there's heirs. Because, again, cool, 100,000, but if you're one of the heirs, you're probably thinking, what's my cut?
Right.
I don't know.
And that's true. That's true. That's a good way to think about that, too. Now, you did say that this guy's the executor. There were other people involved in it, but you didn't really know what their relationship was in this deal, right?
Well, I do. It's his nephews. So the person who passed away was his sister, and she had 2 sons, and one of the sons actually lives in the house. So he said, and one son got a bunch of money, like cash, from the probate, but they were, they weren't really a family anymore. She didn't talk to him at all, but she got the money. She was trying to stop that from happening before she died, and it was too late, and he still got the money. But there's another son that lives in the house, and he's going to give him some money.
Now, what does the will say about the house?
It's the brother, the older man that is the executor, and the guy that's he's the heir to the house. So the kids are not heirs to the house. So
does the will specifically just say that the proceeds of the house go to these 2 people, or does it just say
it just goes to him?
The estate?
He's going to give money to the kid himself.
Just for being nice. Okay, gotcha. But you're talking to the guy that it goes to.
Right.
Okay, and he is also the executor.
He is the executor.
Okay, yeah, so you're solid. You're in a good position. So that's what I would say. We start with the 94. We let him say no. We see his offer. We make our faces while we're writing stuff down on the piece of paper. Then we give him our max offer of 102, which is still that 175 or that 75%. Then if he says no, we're going to back it up by showing him how we got our ARV. We're going to back it up by showing him, I literally will walk them through my rehab and tell them all my numbers. And by the way, here's another nugget for you guys. When you're walking through the house with somebody, for those of you who know me, I'm nerdy and I put too much credence into this, and you can laugh at me if you want, but I always carry a flashlight with me, a really bright flashlight. This one's the Eagle Tac. D25 LC2. It's like $80, but it puts off more light than a 60-watt light bulb. And when I'm walking a house, I'm shining a light, and I'm talking, like, say that Ryan's my seller, right? I'm going to talk to him the whole time, and I'm never going to comment if there's a giant crack over there. I'm just going to keep talking to him about the Super Bowl. But if I'm looking around and I see a crack, I'm just going to shine that light on that crack for a little while, and I'm going to keep BSing with him, and I'm not even going to change the topic or anything until he notices that I notice that there's repairs there, and then I'm going to keep moving on with it, right? He needs to know that we know everything is wrong with the house. And then when we run into a big issue, something that is worth talking about, here's the nugget. I'm always going to say, oh, that's not a big deal. I can get that done for blank, right? Every big thing that they might think is going to be a major issue, I'm going to say, don't worry about that. I do this so often, I can get that done for really cheap. I can get that done for this. Every repair I talk about, I'm going to say how cheap I get that repair done for. So at the end of the negotiation, when we're sitting down and I get to that point after I have to make my faces and after I have to give him my MAO, and then he says no and I'm proving my ARV, when I get to my rehab numbers and I walk him through, well, here's the thing. My ARV is this, my rehab numbers are this, and remember, I'm getting everything for super cheap because I do bulk and I get this done all the time. You're not going to be able to get this number. So if you were to fix this up, it's going to cost you even more than that. So again, going back to that 10 to 15% less thing, this is where I start talking about that it eats up into that money. So I'm going to recall the fact that I told him that 10 to 15% less on the phone right at the end of the negotiations when I bring this up and say, you know, remember, when I came out here, I told you were going to get 10 to 15% less on your deal by selling it to me. That's with using my numbers. This is where I bring that up. That's with using my cheap numbers. If you did this for your numbers, heck, you might only be walking away with 5% less by selling it to me. But I'm efficient and I get this stuff done. And by showing something like what I'm going to do, I'll pull up Propelio on my computer, I'll turn the screen around and I'll show them the comps, and I'll show them that I don't have any filters on anything, that I'm just giving them pure comps. Prove every number to them, and then say, look, I have to buy that at this discount. That number between the 102 and the whatever, that number is why I'm in this. I'm in this because I make money. Let's be very clear. This is what puts food on my family's table. So yes, I've got a profit built in there for myself, and that's why my numbers are what they are. And that's, again, with all of that spiel that I just gave you, my conversion rate is over 80%. Every house I go to, I contract over 80% of every house I sit down in front of, and this is how I do it, right?
And because it's been a minute since I've talked, I will throw out, because you did, Sean, you did say that even though the brother is he has, or not title, but he is the heir of the will, he's the guy that's getting clear ownership of the house. Well, it was a nephew that was living in there. One thing you have to do before any documentation or agreements are signed is, where's the nephew going? Where is he going? When is he going? Is he out before the house? And I know that seems kind of obvious, but some people don't think about it, and then next thing you know, you just bought a house and now you got to evict somebody.
And a lot of times you can buy the house. What I've done here is I've been solely focused on the money side of things because I'm going over only numbers. But one of the things you'll hear me talk about in my class and with like my personal mentors I go into a lot is we're always listening to this. This is the most important thing. The probate, the heir, the person. We need to listen to what the phrase I always say is, I don't care what they're asking for, I care why they're asking for what they're asking for. So if they're asking for a number, it's probably because they have a reason. Maybe they need to put that loser brother up in a house for a little while. Nephew.
Right.
or whatever that might be, you know.
When I first talked to the seller, he doesn't want to deal with a realtor. And now that I've been kind of talking to him, trying to get a number out of him, here and there, he says, I'm going to take on the bids, and then if it's not what I like, I'm just going to go with a realtor, which I think he's just bluffing with that because he lives out way on the right side of Dallas. He's like out in Longview, Texas somewhere. So,
okay. Well, that would be a perfect opportunity to hit him with my realtor spiel I just gave you. I'm gonna, you're expecting 10 to 15% less than if you did that, and then just really point out all the things that make going through a realtor difficult. Exactly.
Well,
cool. Well, Sean, I think you've got
I
think you've got a pretty good deal possibility in front of you. I think, probates are really good for this kind of situation. We've talked about some numbers. We know a range that works for you. We've talked about ways that you can actually approach this with your seller to hopefully get that. And I'd like to hear back from you. If you don't mind, let me know how this turns out. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Ryan, do you have one?
I was going to be clear. This is just a straight flip. There's nothing creative. It's just straight.
Yeah, this would be set up for just a straight flip. I mean, you can do whatever kind of exit you wanted. You could rent it. You can wholesale it at 70-75%. You can flip it. You can do anything that you want at this point in time. So, Sean, thanks for being willing to let us call you and get these numbers and run this together, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Have a good day.
All right, you too. Bye.
Thank you.
So, guys, are you enjoying this? Is this good for you to see some of these things getting put in front of you? If you're liking what we're doing here, give us a like, give us a love. We like that encouragement. We want to know that this is working for you and getting things in front.
Or is everybody just asleep and they left their computer room?
We still got good viewers.
I know people are chiming in, but I'm too busy writing, so I don't get to see the comments.
Yeah, no, it's all good stuff. So, guys, thank you for being willing to participate in this. This is a really fun type of thing. So, I'm going to try Corey one more time, okay? Because I like his deal that he sent. I think it would be valuable for you guys to see. But if I can't get a hold of him, I can't get a hold of him. So let's try that. I'm going to try you, Corey. If you're watching, pick up your phone. And to Alfred's point, no, this is his actual cell phone.
There's another. Alden has one as well.
Alden has one. Okay, good. We'll look at that.
Hello.
Corey, what's up, man?
Not much. What are you doing?
Not too much. You figured out where that answer button was.
I was on the phone with somebody else whenever you called.
All right, I'll allow it. I'll allow it. Okay, well, cool, Mail. So for those oh man, and I forgot to ask Sean this. Hey, Sean, I'm hoping you're still watching. If you are, go ahead and comment if for a way for people to get a hold of you, if they're down in that San Antonio area or whatever it is that you might be able to help them out with. Put a comment on there because this is all about helping each other out. That kind of thing said, Corey Thompson, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing, and how you might be able to help somebody, how they might be able to help you, and how they can get in touch with you.
My name is Corey Thompson. I run a Facebook group called Roughnecks Real Estate. I've been on the show a couple of times. We buy and sell home and finance. We do sub-twos. We use credit partners to establish underlying liens on our wholesale deals. So we don't actually wholesale. We just, buy them ourselves, put a bank mortgage on them, and then turn around and sell them on our finance and trap that equity and pull a little bit of equity out from the bank. And we buy mobile home parks. So that's pretty much what we got, and then we also have a small rental portfolio ourselves too.
That's awesome. Well, very cool. So if you were going to work with somebody else, what would it be through? Wholesaling, buying from them, something like that? Where might they get a hold of you?
Well, they would find me on Facebook. But
on Facebook.
Any town they've never heard of that they have a lead in, like I think Royce has one in Palestine that we're going to buy from him at $30,000. And then there's another one that we got sent that's in Itasca for 21. Those are the towns we like to operate in.
Awesome. I love that quote from Corey. If you have a lead in a town you've never heard of, send it to Corey. Okay, so Corey, tell me a little bit about this deal that you've got going on. What's going on with this?
So we bought a house in Bryan, Texas. We have a bank loan on it with a credit partner. We listed on MLS because we have $0 in it. Right now, we actually have I think we have about $116,000 in it. We have a bank loan against it for $147,000. So we have obviously pulled profits out already. And this morning we got an owner finance offer for $50,000 down. With they want to put $50,000 down, but they wanted to buy the house for $150,000. So we already have an appraisal on it for $190,000, so we're kind of in the back and forth. But obviously, in a situation like that, if they're buying from us for the amount of our underlying lien and putting $50,000 down, we have to make some moves on that. Also, they only want a 15-year AM, and our mortgage is for 20 years. So
cool.
It proves to be a challenge. So there's things you have to do, and I figured it'd be a great deal for you to break down and show people what you would do. If it was a sub-2 or otherwise. Yeah,
this is a really good deal to look at. And so we've done a couple of flips, right? The first two that we did were kind of flip, wholesale, kind of easy cash deals. This is one of those where we're going to have to actually do some number running and number crunching to see how we make this work. And you'll be surprised, sometimes you have to turn down what seems like a really good offer because it turns out to not be as great of an offer as you would have initially thought. So here's the thing. We've got a person who wants to buy at $150,000 with $50,000 down, right? That's what they want to buy it from us at for. That means that they're going to have a loan for $100,000. Now, Corey, have you talked to them at all about interest rates or anything like that as to what they would be paying?
Yes, we got them at 10% interest. So
Okay.
They are okay with that.
Okay, not bad. So what we've got there is we've got a loan for $100,000, and it's at 10% on 15 years, which is 180 months. That means that their payment coming in would be $1,081.84. Okay, that's the payment that would be coming in from this. Now, your loan to your bank was the original principal balance, that 147 that you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that was at 6%? Is that what you told me?
6% interest, yes, sir.
Okay, so 147, 6% for 240 months. That means that the payment going out is $1059.65. So on this loan, I'm going to delete. I'm such a computer nerd. I'm going to delete this right here because we've already got it written over here. So on our loan going out, we're paying $1059. If we sold it to this person, we'd be getting in $1081. Okay, that's only a cash flow of less than $30, right? But there's a $50,000 down payment. Does that make sense? And I'm going to tell you real quick right now, from face value, I wouldn't do this deal because you would have to take that 50 down and put it up against that 147 loan, which is going to end up, you know, you're going to have a loan here for 97, and their loan to you is going to be at 100. You've only got a $3,000 spread there. You're only making less than $30 a month, because the only thing is that if you don't put that 50 down towards that underlying lien, and then something happens like they refinance out of this loan, you would be responsible for paying off that underlying lien as it stands. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a little picture, right? We have a first lien at 147. And now we're creating a second lien at 100. Okay? So if we just took this $50,000 and went to the strip club, that is going to leave it to where if this person refinances or they sell their house on the open market, we need to give them a release of lien. When we give them that release of lien, we also have to pay off whatever's left over on this first lien because it's in a primary seat. So if we just took that $50,000 and ran and had fun with it, then we run the risk of them paying this off and us having to come out of pocket $47,000. So you always want your underlying lien to be less than your wrap mortgage. Now, you can run that risk if you choose. You can decide, well, I'm going to let my underlying lien stay at a higher amount than my wraparound mortgage. But that is a risk that you're running, right? Because, like I said, if they ever need to pay this off for whatever reason, you're coming out of pocket, whatever the difference is. You're in a negative equity situation. You're upside down on mortgages at that point. So the smart thing is you take that 50 and you knock it down on your first so that you only have a $97,000 lien here. But now, even though they're coming at you and they're like, look, I'm a really good buyer. I've got $50,000 down and I want to give you 10% and I want to pay it off in 15 years. That's a phenomenal buyer. But it doesn't do you any good because you can't use that money. That money doesn't really do anything for you. You get $3,000 out of that in spread and you're probably paying that to a realtor for bringing the deal in the first place. So that becomes a difficult one to really make sense with that buyer, especially too the fact that you said that you've got an ARV of 197 on this guy, right? Wasn't that 197 you said?
Yes. Well, we got a 190 appraisal in hand. So
gotcha. So
we're also giving up $40,000 in equity up front.
Exactly. So you're giving up $40,000 in equity and you're not getting really anything out of it because that money would have to go directly to that underlying lien. So it sounds good on face value. It sounds good. They're like, man, this person has 50 grand and they want a 15-year payoff, which typically means it's a phenomenal buyer, and it is a phenomenal buyer. But it doesn't do you any good. So that's kind of the trick there that makes that difficult. And I've had to turn down a lot of buyers for that reason. Now, one of the other things that I do want to kind of go into is that we ran into a couple of different issues like this, right? We're upside down on our equity, but we're also upside down on our amortizations because this guy is a 20-year and this guy was a 15-year, right? Now that in and of itself is not that big of a deal, but let me show you how that's going to kill your cash flow. That $30 that we thought we had in cash flow here is gone because of this. Because what has to happen now is if we've got a loan amortization on our wrap, on our second lien of 15, we need to re-amortize the payments that we're giving to our first lien to match the lower wrapped amount, okay? So again, I'll make that picture. We've got a first lien of 20 years, and we've got a second subordinate lien, which is our wrap, at 15 years. Now, just like when the buyer, if they were to, if we had this equity position like we were talking about earlier, and the buyer needed to pay this off, and we would need to pay off our first, same way, if it's an amortization, we need to make sure that our first lien is being paid off at the same time as this second lien is. Because when they pay me off, when they pay you off in 15 years, you need to provide them clear title. You need to give them that release of lien, and that comes with getting rid of that first lien. So it's as easy as, even, we're just going to run the same numbers. We're putting 147 in there, 6%. Still the 6%, but we need to make extra principal payments to that first lien in order to make sure that it's going to pay off at the same time as our second. So all you do there is you put the same numbers in. You're putting 147 in your calculator, you're putting 6% in your calculator, but now you're going to be putting 180 months instead of 240. And now, in order for you to match the time here, your payment is not $10.59 a month, your payment is $12.50 a month. So for you to make extra principal payments enough to pay off your first lien in 15 years, you have to pay about $90 more every month in order for that timing to match, which then puts you upside down and you've got a negative cash flow because they're paying you $10.81 and you're, not way more than 90, $290 more. Is it 190? Whatever, my math is terrible. 190. You're paying $190 more. So now you're in a negative cash flow situation of almost, of basically $180.
It's $191.
Okay. So this deal, you've got a really good deal on in your hand with what you bought at. You bought right. You've got a good deal there because it's valued at $190. This buyer, I would not say is your buyer.
So real quick though, this $12.50, is that with keeping the 50 down, or is that with putting the 50 towards this guy?
That would be, that's a good question. That's a very good question. Thank you for pointing that out because I didn't count that towards putting that towards this guy. So if you did that, then that would change the story. You would have a $97,000 loan. Okay, fair enough.
And it knocks some years off the amortization. I think that'll put it down to like 11 years that we would owe, and they would owe 15. I mean, the money would be there on the back end. But it's still not a good deal because we're giving out $40,000 in equity up front.
Right.
So we're like, hey, we have an appraisal. So
yeah,
this is the as-is appraisal. And we've countered. We countered 175 because ultimately what they're running up against is a payment objection. So it's like they're making this offer based on payment, not based on equity. We countered offered and lowered the interest to help get them closer to the payment they wanted. But ensure that we would have equity so we can capture more of that down payment up front.
Right. Yeah. So it is again it's a difficult situation that you're in because even if you put I was just thinking about this, even if you put that 50 towards the loan, unless you refinance that loan, your payment's still $10.59. And like Corey said, you can pay it off more quickly because of that. You're going to make that payment off, and Corey said he runs the numbers. It's about 11 years. But what happens then is you put all this time and effort into a deal that you're hoping lasts 11 years so that you can get 4 years worth of cash flow on it on the back end, and that just doesn't really, for me, doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
A lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
It don't. It's a lot of work.
So that's an interesting one though, Corey. Thanks for bringing that one up because again, we run into a negative equity and we run into a negative amort. Not really negative amort, but you know what I'm talking about.
So what's the solution?
Yes, sir. Look, whenever I heard the offer this morning, it's just like everybody. Here's a $50,000 down, and you think, I'm going to make it away with $50,000, and then you look at it and you're like, I'm not making it away with anything, like nothing. This deal doesn't suit me at all.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Right.
So you're hearing Corey's experience there because you saw me. I mean, the first thing that I said after seeing this is, hey, a lot of times these offers look really good and you get excited from the start, but then you figure out it's actually not for you It's exactly what Corey just said. It's like, hey, man, you get really excited. You're like, heck yeah, $50,000. You start running numbers. You're like, oh, this actually sucks. This isn't a good offer. And a lot of times your buyers and your buyer's agents don't understand that. They're like, but Grant, they have $50,000 down. They want a 15-year amort. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry. That doesn't make me money. Because of how my liens worked, it just doesn't make sense for me. And you're giving up $40,000 in equity. So, Corey, thanks for bringing this one up. This is a really cool example, and it let us touch on something complicated as well as the couple of easier ones that we did earlier. So again, join Corey's group. It's a great group. Roughneck, what is it? Roughneck 2 with the number 2, right?
Real estate.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the number 2 real estate.
Roughneck 2 Real Estate. So join that group. You can contact him. I'm on that group. Ryan's on that group. You'll see us talking there and that kind of stuff. And then, again, shoot out some likes, shoot out some loves, comments, that kind of stuff. We like working with you guys. So, Corey, thanks for calling in today, and I'm going to let you go, and we're going to move on to another one, all right?
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. See ya.
Before we do move on, what other than just, hey, finding a new buyer, he did throw out, we counted at 175. Is there a quick way to look at what that would do to the numbers?
Yeah, so the way that we look at that at that point in time is now you've got to start looking at, so what I would recommend if you're looking for the solution here is to go back to last week's Grant Teach Me Something and look at my rules of thumb, because one of those is that I want to make a minimum personally, that I want to make a minimum of $150 cash flow every month if I'm going to do a deal. Mm-hmm. So I might counter in a way that says, look, what is 1059 plus 150? Mm-hmm. What is that payment? How can I get to that payment with them? Is that raising the price? I'm not going to raise my interest rate above 10%, so I'm going to basically have to be going up on price with them. They know that they're buying at a discount because we've got an appraisal at 190. So now I would be talking about the price of the house to get to a point where it makes sense for me. Exactly what Corey was talking about. We're going to counter at price, because then also if you counter at price, let's say you go to 175. Now you get to keep 25 of that 50. And the other 25 goes to paying your loan down. Mm-hmm. But you get $25,000 up front. So now all of a sudden that $50,000 might actually help you out.
And Sparkle and Diamond and Sapphire are happy.
Yes, exactly. So I do want to point out the most important part about getting all these things done is getting good numbers, getting your good ARVs on it, right? And the way to do that is not through going some stupid website like Trulia or going to the tax appraiser's website. Check out Propelio.com. Guys, again, they're putting on a great show here. I'm allowed to brag on them because I don't work for them, but they're putting on a great show here. They put a lot of effort and money into getting people like me to talk to you guys. And that's not even really the main deal that they have. The main thing that they have is they're offering you the ability to get real MLS comps, actual real stuff that only realtors previously could provide for you. So now you don't have to go out and desperately search for that investor-friendly realtor and all that kind of stuff.
All of that is provided by a realtor.
And let me point out that
he didn't work here, so he didn't know what we do.
No, the data is coming through a realtor. The data is coming through a real estate brokerage. You are having the actual MLS stuff from a realtor. When I say you're not having to search out that real estate investor friendly realtor, it's because you get to log on to your Propelio.com account and pull your comps.
Website,
pull your comps from that site right there. And it's got a cool CRM, and it's giving you freaking leads that are good leads. They're actually the leads that I use to go out and buy houses. So don't pass up on that. Really, go check them out at Propelio.com. There's probably a link on the thing, and if nothing else, on the Facebook page.
And earlier this week, on Monday, I did a quick 20-minute video about lead management and how you can do it for free on a Google spreadsheet. But the reality is you could also use Propelio for free for lead management. And, everything we do here, we try to provide value and not go over the top sales, but, hey, show you alternatives. But the reality is, sign for Propelio, you get your leads, you get your CRM, you get your lead management, and you get access to true MLS comps. Mm-hmm. So there it is.
I'll end up with what looks like to be a pretty quick one here. We've got Alden down in Houston. Alden's actually coming up here to Dallas tomorrow because he's going to be joining in as a personal mentor student of mine. But here's his question here is he's got a lead that's a free and clear house, one of his customers. They're asking $200,000. It needs some TLC, $15,000 to $20,000 at the most. Alden, I know, is a contractor, so his numbers are going to be right there. He says it's a really good neighborhood. Houses sell for $275,000 to $320,000. It was never flooded, which that's important right now in Houston. And another offer came in at $150,000. Seller says he quote unquote, might let it go for 180. Okay, so here's kind of what we're looking at. We've got an ARV. After the house is going to get fixed up, it's going to be worth $275 to $320. Okay, again, we're assuming that he's gone to Propelio.com, used real MLS comps for that. And so what we need to figure out is, A, what is Alden's risk tolerance? Is he a 75% buyer, an 80% buyer, a 70% buyer, whatever that might be? We're going to run off of the number of 75 cents just because that's kind of a middle range for everybody right about now. So if we look at that deal, and we're going to go off of our lower end number, the 275, because we know it can be 275 to 320. We want to start off our offers being more conservative and then get progressively more aggressive as time goes on. As you are competing with other investors and that kind of stuff, you might be able to raise your price after looking at your pad of paper and making your faces while you draw things on it. So we've got 275 times 75, which leaves us to our basis would be 206. So we would want to be in that property total for 206. Now, if we think that there is a $25,000, $15,000 to $20,000 rehab, we're going to go on the high end of that and say there's a $20,000 rehab. That leaves us 186. So if we take 20,000 out of that, we're left with 186. 186 is our offer that we can give to the seller. So right here, Alden, you've got a good deal. If you think that they are willing to let it go for 200, or I'm sorry, for 180, and they've got an offer for 150 on the table, as long as this number is right, you've got a really good deal right here. You should be able to convince them to get you that, or to go for that 186 if they're asking 200. And just for the record, if you gave them the 200 that they were asking for, that would mean that you would be paying a total of 220, and that is 80% of this 275 number, which is not a terrible deal. You can do deals at 80%. I don't necessarily recommend it.
This is at the 200?
That's if you give them the 200 that they're asking. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, attack that deal. If it's one of your customers and you have that ability to talk to them, you've got a deal on your hands. Offer them 186 to start off with. Heck, if you think they'll do 180, offer them 180, right?
Yeah, and then one thing to think about, Alden, because you are in Houston, and again, I'm not in Houston, I'm just thinking out loud, is there is an abundance of flip houses right now because of the hurricane and all the flooding.
It's true.
So therefore, like in Dallas, this 80%, yeah, that's still a good deal. But in Houston, I don't know. I would go to those networking events, talk to everybody that's in the market, because that might be 60% just because of the surplus of flip houses.
Yeah, thank you for
I'm just throwing it out there, thinking out loud is something to think about.
No, that's very true, and thank you for drawing that out, because that's something that I should have considered, and I didn't, so thank you, Ryan.
That's why
Ryan, teach me something.
Ryan, okay. Point something out.
Okay, well, cool. So I think that wraps it up for us today, guys.
I hope the meat.
But I hope you liked doing this. This is fun. You know, this piggybacked onto what we were doing last week of really just doing some deal analysis and letting you guys see what real deals look like in the real world and what kind of questions you might need to ask and how you're going to attack those deals to make sure that you can be the one that buys them. Again, I can't stress to you enough, I mean, Propelio is doing an awesome thing here, so don't forget to support them. If you want to know more about me, you can find me at CCF Mentors on Facebook, CreativeCashFlow.com. I do the educational stuff, got some things for you to learn on online as well.
Yeah, and if you like this, let us know. Maybe we do it again. I mean, obviously we're not going to do it every day, but if it's something that you want us to do again, let us know. Maybe we do it every other week. Who knows? Let's see what people say in the commentary. Mark, yeah, got Propelio, checking it out. Let us know what your thoughts. As we say here, let us know what you like to do.
I'm going to start calling you Vanna Ryan.
Vanna Ryan.
Witherspoon over here referring to Vanna White Ryan over here.
Jason called me Vanna Ryan. Doing great on the board. Thank you. I try.
Again, we want to thank Tyler for putting up stuff on Medicaid. Hopefully that'll help Chris with his deal there.
If you like the flashlight that Grant was running, looks like Tang dropped a link in there. Let's see what else. Nuggets, yes. Think of 10 to 15% as a convenience fee. That's an awesome tip. So when you're talking to your potential sellers, when you're talking about that 10 to 15% discount, call it a convenience fee. That's pretty awesome. Tyler, thank you for dropping in those links.
I think that's all the main questions here. We've got one more deal analysis guy that was out there. I'm not going to be able to, just for timing wise, get into that one today, but again, I like the participation here, and we do want to keep that conversation open.
Yeah, and then just a couple pitches for us. CreativeCashFlow.com. Obviously, we're not paying Grant to come in here to hang out with us. So if you've never gone to his page, check him out. Obviously, Propelio.com. Is this the first time you've kind of joined in with us over here? If you haven't liked our page, like our page. If you've never gone to our website, go to our website. If you've never done the 7-day free trial, what are you doing? Come on now.
What are you doing with your life?
What are you doing with your life? For the cost of not a McDonald's cup of coffee, but maybe like an espresso cup of coffee, you can get access to your MLS comps. You can get access to those off-market leads. You get a lead management tool. One thing that we started using in our business is the team aspect of it. Is I work at Propelio, and every day I'm learning new stuff about here.
And I can't stress enough. Like I said, I pull up Propelio to show people real comps. Like when I'm in seller meetings, right? I used to pay somebody to get these leads for me every day. I don't pay that person anymore. I just get the leads from Propelio. Those are leads that somebody that's at the top of the game who's buying a bunch of houses, I'm using those leads. So again, this is a good product that I think that you guys will really latch onto. One thing to point out is we're going to be in San Antonio.
February 26th.
February 26th for the Propelio
San Antonio REI meetup.
San Antonio REI meetup.
250 registered attendees,
which is going to be awesome, and we're going to really going to get you some good information on that. And then I'll be sticking around for the 27th to do a boot camp further on owner financing, that kind of stuff. So please let us know if you're interested. And you can sign up from the Propelio Facebook page. There's a way to get to it.
I'll drop a link.
And remember, you can always submit questions in advance. Like I had a couple of messages that we were able to start this show with people that I called, because they had submitted those questions in advance. So
yeah, and on that, if I was doing my job, I would have the entire week scheduled out for the videos. But sometimes I'm lazy. I'm not. But anyway, when you see like a scheduled video, by all means, jump in there and drop questions. We also have a Propelio group for TV ideas and social segments. So if you have interest in being part of that group, let me know. I'll get you signed up. But we'll get you on there. Ask those questions. Anyway. We're kind of rambling on here, but try Propelio. Check out Grant Creative Cash Flow. We'll see you on February 26th. Tomorrow, Donovan Ruffin is back in here. He's got a cool story. Travion is super happy. He's already smiling. He really likes that guy. I'm looking forward to meeting him, and I'm looking forward to sharing with everybody here at Propelio. So until tomorrow, always do your stuff, do your thing. I need a good outro.
You do need a good sign off.
I need a sign off.
Keep on learning.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
We'll see you tomorrow.
All right, see you guys. Thank you.